Okay, good evening. This is now up to week 4 of information system security. So a couple things I want to talk about this week. We're lining up where we're coming up on exam number 1, which I think is our big going to be a big event this week. I'm going to as I sent a message out earlier. Um, the exam is going to be scheduled for Tuesday night. All right. I had sent a message out, um, basically giving an outline of the different topics. So I'm actually going to walk. I've actually put together a different version of this, or a kind of a little bit more detailed version of the study guide. I'm going to walk through shortly. Okay, but so the exam is going to be 6 p.m. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock the exam at 6 p.m. Then send a message out to everybody. I'll leave the exam open for the expectation is I'll leave the exam open for 3 hours. All right, so 6, 7, 8, 9. So basically, you need to have logged onto the system on Tuesday night, sometime between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, in order to get access to the exam. All right. Um, Let me go through as I said, I'll send a message out. I'll send a couple of reminders out around around the specifics of the time. That's basically what exam is going to be. Exam 1 is going to be. Um, from a content, basically, it's going to be everything we've covered up to now. All right. So it's basically the 6 topics, that we had reviewed in topic 1, or the 6 subtopics in topic 1, and in addition, um, topic 2 and topic 3. The type of the exam, if you do the quizzes, as we've been doing the quizzes as we go through the 4 quizzes, so topic 1 through 1-3 quiz, 1-4 through 1-6 quiz, 2 and 3, basically gives you what the questions will look like. So if you do that successfully and you're comfortable with that, you should be pretty comfortable with what we're going to cover on the exam. So what I'm going to do is I sent a message out earlier about the study guide. I'm going to do is walk through this, like I say, a little bit more detailed version of the study guide, maybe review some of the topics you're going to want to review and make sure you're comfortable with going into the exam. Okay. So I've added this under our quizzes. Basically, it's under quizzes and tests. So there's there's a bunch of topics. So one of the things that we deal with when we're dealing with information system security. So there's a lot of different concepts, a lot of different terms and topics. So I wanted to kind of make sure some of the stuff we had talked about, you're kind of familiar with, and this is all covered in the presentation decks. It's also covered in the recording. So basically, all this stuff should be available to review. All right. So we talked about, basically the different, the idea of a cyber attack. What are the different types of attacks we have out there? So we talk about the way an attack gets set up, because there's a predictable set of steps and stages that an attacker will use in order to go after a particular resource. So you want to go, look at those different stages that we go through, the different types and classes of attacks. All right. Also, this idea of backdoor attacks. All right, being able to getting in and then basically planning a backdoor that you can come back in later. Right? One of the big things an attacker will want it to do is number one does not want you to. One of their key objectives is to make sure that their activity is not detected, but also to leave the door open for them to come back in and do additional work. All right. So this idea of backdoor. Different types of hacking, the different generations of stuff, as we've talked about, as things have developed over the years, as we moved away from mainframe systems. The way we dealt with information security with mainframe systems is different than the way we deal with information security in highly networked systems. The introduction of things like mobility and phones really have given attackers a whole new plethora of tools and attack vectors to be able to leverage. All right. Talking about man-in-the-middle attack, so a very well-known attack, where somebody intercepts a communication and pretends to be, pretends to be the endpoint and monitors the traffic both coming and going. All right. Different types of password attacks, spoofing attacks, which are pretty well, those are very well documented out there. The different types of spoofing attacks, denial of service attacks. All right. There's the difference between what we do with TCP and UDP. There's some different tricks and different techniques. These are basically compromises. You recall, compromises of built-in functionality, built into the TCP/IP stack that have been used to compromise. So when we talk about things like the ping of death, basically ping is a well-known, defined networking tool. The ping of death is a compromise of the system, so that if you ping something, you'll crash. This basically adopts it so that if you ping a system, you can crash it with a ping. All right. Some of the other different types of attacks we talked about, so BOINC, distributed denial of service, mathematical attacks, land attacks. All right. So, review that, be comfortable with those. We also talked about asset management, and we talked about different types of security programs. How do we deal with this stuff? All right, so central computer, system level, and computer security programs, the computer types of programs we associate with this. We talk about the information economics, so the things we deal with IT project. The constraints associated with projects are obviously like as we talk around kind of the three dimensions of it. You can either do it, it's resource constraint, it's time constraints. There's a balance between multiple different factors you always have to deal with on a project. So the idea is that those are the types of things that come into factor as we're evaluating security plans. All right. Also, we talked about assurance concepts. A cybersecurity lifecycle versus an organizational lifecycle versus software assurance principles. So these are things that you want to. We talked about, in our deck, things you want to be comfortable with going into on the exam. Also, the different kinds of quality attributes. So we talk about availability, interoperability, performance, reliability. These are all of the things that we call quality that we associate with security. Talking about supply chain security, as we see now, the disruption of organizations, with the COVID-19 virus. That was actually, a lot of organizations would have, had something like this have identified something like this within their supply chain security models to identify, okay, what if there is something from, when you have, a distributed number of operations with different sources and destinations of material, if something was to happen, for example, a lockdown of transportation or logistics. All right. And then also this idea of awareness training and education. All right. Also talked about some of the different architecture frameworks, machine types, machine operating systems, security architecture. So these are the things you want to go back and kind of review in the deck. We talk about CPU, SABSA, and storage as well. We talk about the change control process, the idea of being able to the management of change becomes extremely important. Because basically, whenever you change something, a change can be viewed as a potential disruption, introducing new factors into a steady state. So managing that becomes of highest level compliance. Compliance monitoring, hosted endpoint security. And these are all the different things we talked about over the past couple of weeks. protection mechanisms, security models, security policies, uh, the differences between formal and insecurity, all right, information system architectures. And so these are all the terms that you know or concepts you want to just go back and review and be familiar with. And then finally, we talked about this access control, single sign-on, access control mechanisms, effective authorizations, and ABAC. All right. So as I said, these are all the things that we covered within the first over the first 4 weeks, first 4 weeks of the topics. All right. So yeah, and these are we see this with the quizzes, and you'll see this within the decks. So make sure we go back and just review that. Make sure you're comfortable with some of these concepts as we go into exam one. Okay. So that's going to be Tuesday, as I said, Tuesday at 6 p.m. In addition, I'm putting together a deck right now. I'm going to do another recording. I'll put that out there with our ongoing project. All right, with our business continuity case study. So what I've done is I've gone back. What happens and I'll explain this in a different recording, but basically what happens is when we do these business impact analysis, when we do the development of security plans and policies, the expectation is first step is really you take what you have. All right, so you really need an understanding of what your current systems, applications, networking infrastructure. You need all of that really laid out. All right. So, and in real life, what ends up happening is this is actually the sequence we'll go through is that you'll get kind of somebody will request like the board of trustees will request something, executive leadership will request something. You go back, you do an analysis. You get the information about the organization around what's in place, and then we use that as the starting point for the development of a continuity plan or an impact analysis, and also a development of a continuity risk identification and mitigation plans. All right, so I'm going to post this in a different video. So, because I have a deck, and I can walk through the details of the deck. All right, so we'll have that, and then we're going to pick up. Once we do the exam, the next piece we're going to cover is going to be topic 4. All right, so in 4 we start introducing the idea of application programs. All right. This really kind of goes into application development. So one of the things that you'll see as we kind of move through the course is that this stuff kind of runs almost as a parallel to information technology architecture. So we'll talk about application development. There's a security aspect to that. We talk about networking and firewalls and network, kind of network infrastructure. And there's a security aspect to that as well. So there's, this kind of is when we talk in 4, we start talking about this idea of having applications, development of applications, and what we want to identify and work with around application security, baking that into the applications and verifying that things work as desired. All right, and also to eliminate and mitigate the risk associated with malicious code and antivirus software. A lot of times these things are targeted. These types of attacks are targeted at mistakes that are made at the application development level. So there's work that can be done or should be done at the application level as people are developing the programs, writing the code, designing the systems that we need to identify, we need to test for. Okay, so that is our summary. I guess that's our summary of what we're going to be doing for right now. Going into next week. So we're going to focus on for this week. Main driver right now is going to be the exam on Tuesday night. Exam 1 on Tuesday night. If there's any questions about stuff, please just reach out to me. What I'll do is, if people have questions and need clarifications around things, what I usually do is I kind of gather them together, and I'll create a post for them so everybody will hear that. Because I'm assuming if one person asks the question, it probably means everybody may have the exact same question, but maybe didn't raise it. All right. So that's about it, and we will continue to move forward. All right. Talk to you soon now.